Guys, this is Nick. In the name of the FC Schalke and team, I want to congratulate you on your 100th episode. Thanks for supporting us in the US, and hopefully there will be many more episodes of your podcast in the future. Glück auf!
Ball still in play. Oh, what a goal! What a magnificent, absolutely stupendous strike from Kevin Kharman. Borovic through to Raul. Lovely chip by Raul. 4-1 Schalke.
Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute. Willkommen zum einzigen Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right, folks. Officially the world's only English Schalke podcast worldwide. This is episode 105 of SchalkeMerica, and I'm your host, Richard Kharman. Joining me on the show, as always, is co-host Jack Mangan. Jack, how are we doing on this Sunday evening?
Doing about as well as I think anyone could expect, given the circumstances. So hanging in there, doing okay.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I mean, Schalke forces you to drink sometimes, and you drink a little more than you want to, but it is what
Drink
it
responsibly, folks. I'm working on
That's right.
scotch tonight, though. It's definitely a scotch weekend after that performance.
Yeah. No doubt about that. It was a strange weekend, no doubt about it. Obviously, going into the match against Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg was, the top 10. Having a fairly decent season. We knew it was going to be tough. Last week was the game we really wanted to win against Mainz. Did not do so. And so it was always going to be tough. And I mean, if the one thing I knew going into this match is that there's a guy named Weghorst that you really should probably cover because he torched us last game. Didn't really happen this game, did it, Jack? But let's get into the lineups in this one. So Wolfsburg came out in a 4-2-3-1. Casteels in goal. They had a back four: Baku, Lacroix, Brooks, and Roussillon. They had a 5 in the midfield with Schlager, Arnold, Brekalo, Mehmedi, and Stefan. And then up top, they had the big man, Weghorst. Anything in this lineup that you were surprised about? I mean, it's something we knew about. This is a very strong lineup. But yeah, I mean, anything surprising from this lineup?
Not a ton. There's just a lot of players in the Wolfsburg team that you feel like at any moment can come up and make the difference. So I mean, we talk about like Stefan, Mehmedi, Brekalo. None of those. I mean, even Weghorst has been good. I mean, the last like
against
season,
us,
but, yeah. But I mean, like a lot of these guys are not people that you would consider to be like, maybe the first couple names you think of when you think of the most dangerous attacking players in the Bundesliga. Yeah. But they're all totally capable guys and people that you all have to kind of be aware of. And I mean, I think they each had moments in this game where they were causing us problems on different ends of the field. So, it was always going to be a tough challenge coming into this one. Wolfsburg off to a decent start, and pretty much any team at this point is a tough ask for us when we're drawing against Mainz, who are some of our closest company at the table. So, and it didn't go particularly well, but we'll get into that in a second.
No, it didn't. And I think if there's any team in the Bundesliga that gets hurt more by the Geisterspiel with no fans in attendance than us, I don't know who it would be, because it seems like when Schalke and historically at least, when we've not played well at home, at least the fans would get on us and get us to notch it up a gear, at least to be average, not to keep this poor play up. But anyway, the formation that came out was the 3-1-4-2, and we just came out with the Manuel Baum tactics on YouTube, on our YouTube page, and check that out. But it seems like, Jack, that the formation that we've been going with recently, more oftentimes than not, is the 3-1-4-2. And in this game, obviously, Frederick Renov in goal, he seems to be our best player of the season so far, unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it. The back three was actually Malik Thiaw, Benjamin Stambouli, and Matija Nastasic. Our holding midfielder would be Omar Mascarell. Our attacking midfielders would be Kilian Ludwig, Bastian Oczipka, Suat Serdar, and Amin Harit. And then up top, you had Mark Uth and Gonzalo Paciencia. Pretty standard lineup for us, but there were some players or a player that would have raised eyebrows, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Salif Sané, unfortunately injured on international duty. He was out of this one, and now recent news today is looking like they're evaluating whether or not he's going to need surgery for this injury. He could be out, upwards of a month or so. That's about, the last thing we need at this point in time. The defense has been a mess all season, and we were finally looking like we were kind of starting to gain some momentum with that. And then, now we're going to lose Ceane again for a bit. This was the case last year as well. We had a lot of issues with center back depth. Ozan Kabak also out of the lineup. Once again, just coming back from international duty. So, he'd had a brutal week with travel and minutes and everything like that. So that's why we saw Stambouli slot back in to the back line. I was not pleased to see that. I would have much preferred, and I think we had already said this on a recent podcast, was much rather see a back four without Stambouli than having Stambouli slot back in. And I ultimately, I think I said something similar on Twitter, but it seems like Manuel Baum is trying to gain some momentum with the system that he's using. You can call it a couple different things. I still see it often in possession as sort of like a 3-3-2-2. And so, I mean, I guess I understand from Manuel Baum's point of view of like, if he thinks that this is kind of how he wants to go forward and the team's getting comfortable with it and starting to develop some chemistry in it and that kind of thing. And so you just want to slot Stambouli in there to maintain the integrity of what you're working on. I understand that. But I think Stambouli's been off the pace all season. I think he proved that once again today. Or not today, but, this weekend, I should say. And so that was not promising going into it. But beyond that, the formation, the rest of the selection, I think was relatively standard. It was nice to see Suat Serdar back in, obviously, because he's had his struggles with injuries as well recently.
Yeah, and I was holding my breath every time he was playing. Just the whole how many minutes he had, it was 70 minutes or something like that. Because you don't want to see him injured. The last 2 times we've seen him play, he got injured. So that's the last thing we wanted. Again, don't want to rush him out there too much. But in theory, this 3-1-4-2, how it starts, at least, like I say, it changes throughout the game. Defensively, it should be fairly stout when you get the 2 wing backs come back to help, and then you got technically 6 people in front of the box there. And then when offensively, you can also have just as many bodies going to the attacking goal. So it should work out when the players play. Unfortunately, it's not working well for us at the moment. And the last thing we wanted to do is give up a goal early. And of course, that, like we mentioned before, Weghorst is the guy who tends to, make us pay for it, I guess. And in the 3rd minute, Wout Weghorst would get the goal, a header off a corner kick off of Maximilian Arnold. Poor marking there. At first, I wanted to give the blame to Malik Thiaw, but I think looking at the replay, it looked like it was Nastasic's one to blame, because he looked like he was just pushed off the ball easily, bodied off the ball, I should say, but easily by Nastasic, and then Thiaw just didn't get there in time. What'd you see?
And I think there's some criticism that can be directed Nastasic's way on the second goal as well. But yeah, on this one, it looks like he's marking. Weghorst, sorry. And who starts off his position, I think, behind John Brooks to get some separation between him and his mark. And as he comes around John Brooks, Nastasic just never really makes consistent body contact with him and just kind of gets shoved off and loses him. There's no foul or anything like that. Weghorst is just a strong guy. Yeah. And he creates separation far too easily. And there's this awkward handoff between Malik Thiaw and Nastasic that takes place. And it's not, I don't think it's really Thiaw's fault at all, in my opinion. I think Nastasic kind of loses him and makes a half-hearted effort a little bit too much to marking him. And ultimately, it's a really nice header, kind of glancing away from him back post. And not the way that we needed to start this game. It's, the one thing we need to avoid more than anything. I mean, even if we're not going to score goals or, whatever, you would like to see that goal potentially come a little bit later in the match as opposed to, 2-3 minutes in, starting with that gut punch. The psychology of this team, as we know, is so fragile and not in the best place at the moment. So that was tough to see.
Yeah, it definitely was tough to see, and it's not at all how we wanted to start the game. More than anything, we're a team that needs to get that first goal just to kind of get any kind of confidence back, and having that gut punch to a team that's far superior than you is not a way to do it. And so your career is always when a goal happens, how the other team is going to react. We did not react. It seemed like it was a heavyweight fight. It looked like Mike Tyson going out for the knockout punch in the first round. I mean, at one point, Wolfsburg had something like 14 shots in the first 10 minutes or something crazy. I mean, they were throwing everything at Frederick Grenov. To his credit, he made some big saves in this game. He had to, because there was no one playing defense in front of him. Wolfsburg was just shredding us apart left and right. And it culminated in the 24th minute when a goal by Schlager, he gets the goal, makes it 2-0. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh, it's a rout, Jack.
Yeah, so the thing that initially kicks this off is something that had been taking place on a number of occasions. I think potentially the first time I saw it was as early as the 7th or the 8th minute, where Benjamin Stambouli, who's playing in the center of that back three, will step up super aggressively to try to like deny ball or put somebody under pressure, whether it's Weghorst who's dropping deeper or somebody, whoever it is. And we saw him do this against Bayern. We saw him do it a couple times early in the season where he was getting punished for it consistently because he has no recovery speed and it completely pulls the defense out of its shape. Now, if that's somehow part of the game plan for both Wagner and Manuel Baum is for Stambouli to be doing those things, then okay. But I find that very hard to believe, and it's been a consistent issue. So in this situation, once again, Weghorst drops deep. He receives a ball from, I think it was left back, right?
Yeah.
Ruscio potentially.
Yeah.
Stambouli comes all the way out. And then you can see Schlegel. This is like a set play for them, essentially, almost for us. You can see Schlegel is watching this take place, and he pops out so that he's available for a quick touch from Weghorst, who knows he's going to be under pressure from Stambouli. It's almost like they planned this.
Yep.
And then immediately Weghorst turns towards goal. There's a numerical advantage. Then it's like a 3v2 or whatever it is. And ball goes wide, ultimately comes back in, and they're able to score. And it was like Schlager and Weghorst were both teeing up for it. Like, I mean, it was just whoever wants to get there first, because it's not going to be a Schalke player. It's going to be one of the Wolfsburg guys. And it's just unfortunate because it's the kind of mistake, at least I would call it a mistake, that we've seen on a number of occasions from Stambouli. And it's something that we saw happen on multiple occasions earlier in the match. And I'm sitting there at my TV, like calling this out and like, this has to stop. And then naturally you get punished for it. And it's frustrating. I don't know what else to say about it. It seems to me to be like just an individual mistake largely. I guess the only other thing you can mention, I apologize. Nastasic, that entire play is really marking no one.
No.
And when this thing kicks off, he's not really close to anybody. And then instead of trying to like rush in and put a body on Weghorst or disrupt the passing lane or do something, he ultimately just kind of goes into the side of the box and tries to block the shot. But yeah, I mean, just super weak effort from Nastasic, in my opinion, tracking back and stopping this. We saw something similar from him against Dortmund with the Erling Haaland goal, where he just like doesn't react and doesn't, you know what I mean? I don't know. So that was frustrating too. But this is the kind of stuff that's got to stop, because I think the players are better than this, and it's putting us in a bad position.
This is one of the worst games I've seen from Nastasic, I think, from a tactical standpoint. He was all over the place and making mistakes and not being where he was supposed to be. I mean, like you mentioned in the Erling Haaland goal in the Riviera Derby. Yeah, he probably should have read that run, because the run was coming from a mile away. But there's a plays that he was in the box and he was not giving no effort. It looked like. I'm not saying he wasn't, but it just looked like, and basically led the 2 goals for Wolfsburg off the top. And we just did not react at all. That first half was just atrocious to watch. And I mean, we looked like a relegation team in that first half. Couldn't do anything. It was one-way traffic. We had a chance at last. Well, before I get to that, in the 39th minute, enough's enough. They pulled Amin Harit, because I didn't even know he's in the game until the 39th minute. He gets pulled by Baum finally, and then Benito Raman comes in and he gets a shot off just before halftime. But I mean, that was really it. I mean, it wasn't much going on in that first half, and we look pitiful, Jack.
So what did you make of that decision to pull Harit, before the halftime whistle from Manuel Baum?
It was, I think, one, he was pissed off at Harit for not being there. But 2, it's a wake-up call. Like, look, this is our best player. I'm taking him off the pitch because we need to do something. We need to react. I don't know if that's what it was, but that's what it seemed to me. But, Harit was the man you need to take off, because he was absolutely nowhere. At least Serdar was trying to do some stuff early on, unsuccessfully at times, but at least he was in the game. Harit, I didn't even see involved at all. Like I said, 39th minute, I'm like, oh, yeah, he was playing. I forgot.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching I was on a video call with a buddy of mine who kind of supports Wolfsburg. Shout out Adam. Throughout this entire game, we were just kind of hanging out as the game was taking place. And I mentioned to him around like the 18th minute, I pointed out that some of the body language from a couple of the guys was already turning for the worse. And one of the guys I was talking about was Harit at that point. And so for Manuel Baum to pull him out 20 minutes later, it was surprising in the sense that you don't often see first half substitutions. And also Harit is, supposedly supposed to be a star player, and at his best absolutely is. Huge X factor when he's locked in. But his passing wasn't great in this one, and just the energy and the effort. That's what I was saying, a couple times this season so far, was people are criticizing Harit because he wasn't as involved offensively as he has been. But at least I was seeing the buy-in defensively and in terms of some of the pressing and stuff. Didn't see it as much in this one, and he just jogged straight to the locker room. I don't know if you noticed that. Like
I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah, I mean so that wasn't good either, in my opinion. And maybe there was something else going on that we don't see, but it seemed to just be performance related. So I mean, shout out to Mandelbaum for doing it. I think it was the right call, but not a good sign going forward, because that's not the kind of thing you want to see. You need Harit optimally to be one of the guys that's leading the way if we're going to have success this year.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then another substitution happened. Another guy we've been criticizing here so far, first 17 minutes of this podcast, Benjamin Stambouli. He comes off at halftime. They brought in Skripski, and they adjusted the back line a little bit to accommodate for that. But just a couple players. Something needed to happen. The players were not reacting whatsoever. Manuel Baum can do only so much from the sidelines. He's not out there actually playing. So he made a couple moves there. Wanted to see what the boys are going to react, and they reacted fairly well. Not the greatest. They actually looked better than the second half than they did the first half, at least. Early on, you had an opportunity at Paciencia. He had some nice skillful play that he nearly scored on. I don't know, took the ball from Rahman or somebody else. I don't remember who it was, Skripski maybe, but did a nice thing. And unfortunately, he had the shot right into the goalie. But yeah, the team had some more shots. They gave up a lot of shots as well. Renault have had some big saves in that second half, point-blank saves. I forget who it was against, but I mean, my goodness, at least it looked more competitive in that second half. Still slanted towards Wolfsburg, but what'd you make of the reaction from the team coming out of the halftime?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think at one point, one of the match commentators mentioned that in the first 10 or so minutes after the second half had started, Schalke were winning 66% of the duels that were taking place. So definitely more high energy. I thought Benito Rahman and Skripski, their introduction was big. That seemed to give us the width that we've been missing for a lot of the season. We've talked about that on previous episodes. It's just, and remember last week when I was critical of Gonzalo Paciencia, and I walked some of that back, but you were in it. I don't think it's his fault, by the way, entirely, is what I'm trying to say. But if you watch that first half, Gonzalo Paciencia is occupying positions that a winger would occupy to receive the ball. And then he's the one that's trying to play across into the center of the box. That is not a winning formula. That is not where you want him to be. And in the second half, you were able to see him stay central much more often and be the one on the receiving end of certain things, because you were seeing Benito Rahman get up high to the left. I mean, there's periods of time in possession, even before we've really advanced the ball that highly, when there was almost like a front four of Benito Rahman and Mark Uth and Paciencia and Skripski on the other side. And that seemed to open things up in the midfield a little bit because it was stretching them out. I thought that helped us in our ability to get forward and create some chances in the second half. And Bentaleb, I thought, was fairly tidy when he came in as well, which was nice to see.
Nice feet on one play. He went around 3 guys, just like it was nothing. And
I do remember that play. I think that actually set up a shot as well, ultimately on a counterattack. But anyway, I mean, Skripski would not be a guy typically that I would say he's somebody I really think needs to be in the starting XI. But I think in his performances this season so far, he's been pretty good for the most part.
I agree.
Yeah, and I do think that you've seen it in a couple games now where Benito Rahman has improved things when he's come on the pitch. So I think we maybe need to consider starting him from the beginning too. I mean, if for no other reason that we also know that regardless of what he does offensively, we know that he's going to work his ass off without the ball as well, which is important. I mean, the difference between him and Harit, for instance, in that regard is, at least in this game, was significant.
Yeah, I agree. And, just to stay on the Skripski and Rahman point, yes, it was, to look back at the Schweinfurt game, yes, it was, a DFB Pokal match against a lower level team. But, Skripski and Rahman played in that game, and linking up with Mark Uth, those two played, very wide, like you said, and were able to, keep those areas, keep Paciencia or whoever, Ibesevic in that game in the middle, and Mark Uth could be able to operate in the middle. That seemed to be work. The flow seemed better. And when those two came on, you seem to get that a little bit more, which is good. So maybe they need to build off of that somehow. In another introduction, you talked about Bentaleb playing well when he came in, as did Katuchu. I thought the play we mentioned that Bentaleb made those plays. I think it ended up going to Katuchu somehow and ended up being offsides. I think he got a nice shot off. It was wide. He should have gotten it back to the net.
And that was. I mean, there was a lot of finishing issues in this game. Katuchu included. That shot, good shot, good pace, good. I mean, close to where it needed to be, but also off target. And Paciencia missed. Misplaced a number of ones. I mean, we had chances in this game.
We did.
I'm not saying there was a lot of great, super clear-cut chances, but we had enough chances to score a goal, and we just didn't take advantage of it.
Unfortunately, our best opportunity came in stoppage time when Benito Rahman fired off a rocket that Castillo just got a tip on and hit the post and stayed out. But, I mean, that was the best chance of the game. We had a lot more fight in that second half once we made those substitutions, but That first half was piss poor, Jack. And if we're going to continue playing like that, it's going to be a long winter, long season.
Yeah, it really is. But I think just in terms of energy, like, guys like Skripski, Benito Raman, those are the guys that need to be playing. I mean, it's not. I don't think at this point it's necessarily about who's your best player in terms of high ceiling. Put him in the starting lineup.
Who has the most heart?
I'm not even saying that like Benito Raman is like playing for the badge or something like that. I don't give a shit. I don't care what they're playing for. But it's just. It's who's out there putting in the shift and doing what they can. And I think there's some guys that are potentially working their way into the team as a result of that. Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, Bentaleb has been inconsistent this season so far. But I mean, God, if he could get back to playing reasonably good, you would love to have him in the middle of the field, because once again, part of the problem, especially when we're not getting that with, is just the initial passing in transition is awful.
Yeah.
And we just can't connect any passes together. And you would think if you can get like Serdar healthy, get a guy like Bentaleb playing consistently, that you'd be able to change some of that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I'm going to read this comment here, and it's about Stambouli and Mascarell. And I'm curious your thoughts. This comes from @GlennTwitStuff. He says Stambouli was trying to charge through the midfield because Mascarell won't. How many games are we going to say that Harit went missing? Rahman is an offensive weapon that we keep on the bench. Stop passing backwards. Lose while attacking, not waiting for it to happen. So I want to focus more on the comments about Mascarell and Stambouli. Do you think, and we saw a lot of that, Stambouli charging up, like you mentioned. He's done this many times in the past. Do you think he was doing it in this game because Mascarell simply wasn't? Mascarell, I thought, was way too passive in this game. And though for someone in that position, we want to not hear too much of him, because usually that means he's doing good. I don't think he was necessarily doing good in his no nonsense way. I don't know how to describe it, but what were your thoughts on the Mascarell Stambouli comments?
I mean, if you want to call Mascarell out for not being involved enough, that's fine. I don't think the solution for that, if you're Stambouli, is to completely throw off the shape of your back line and create opportunities in the way that he has been consistently all season. Yes, I mean, I don't take Stambouli off the hook for that. I don't know. And I guess I have to pay more attention to Mascarell, because I see some of the things you see. I don't feel like he's one of the guys that's been like the main issue this season, though.
Yeah, no, I don't. I agree.
And I feel like he's maybe getting a disproportionate amount of
blame.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel the same way with Mascarell sometimes that I felt with McKennie, which is where like he was just like an easy punching bag for some reason. Yeah. And it's like, I defended McKennie a lot. I never said he was a fantastic player, but I felt like, he wasn't significantly worse than a lot of other people when the whole team was playing poorly, and he just seemed to get a lot of. I feel like that's what's going on with Mascarell now, but I could be in the minority on that. Yeah, and I certainly was on a lot of things last episode. So I mean, that's for one. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. You were just talking about Bentaleb doing fairly well this game, but it wasn't like last game where he was non-existent like Harit was in this game. It was some game. So he's very inconsistent and unfortunate, because if he was just at least consistent, we could at least build around that. And we don't know what we're going to get with him. Sometimes when we start him, he plays poor, and if we bring him on the bench, he plays great. Maybe just better playing off the bench. I don't know. Bring him at halftime. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Leafson6 says, should Ibesevic get playing time? And we talked about this, how, between the two strikers, maybe, obviously Ibesevic has a better nose for goal. He's had a proven career of getting a goal in, and I think he needs to be on the pitch at some point. Probably a reason why he didn't play in this game, which we're going to get to in a second. But do you think he should get more playing time?
Not necessarily.
He's older.
I've been fine with the role that he's had so far, which is mostly like closer to the end of the game. Bring him on. He can disrupt things. He's pretty good in the air for long balls, that kind of a thing. I think he's played pretty well when he has gotten opportunities in limited minutes. I think he's been at worst like pretty similar to anybody else when he's been out there. I don't think that there's like a downgrade that takes place significantly when he comes into the game late on. But I also don't think that he needs to suddenly be worked into the starting lineup more often. Yeah. And some of that may also depend on what ended up happening with this scuffle that took place between him and Naldo in training, whether or not that's viewed as a disciplinary thing or viewed as just sort of like, a disagreement where emotions are running high, and it's actually a good thing because it means people are fired up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we don't know too much about it. We just know that there was a scuffle between, and when we hear scuffle can mean many things. It could just be a verbal exchange, or it could be actually, fisticuffs.
I heard they had to be separated.
Yeah, well, that still could
Like
be the same thing, though.
Separated. Yeah.
There could have just been each other's faces, but it was between Uth and Naldo, an assistant coach. Yes, the assistant coach. And it could be for a number of things.
Ibesevic and Naldo.
Ibesevic and Naldo. Who did I say?
Uth.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Uth, we do got to bring up Uth because after the game there was a post match interview and he was lit up. He was pissed off, and rightly so. I'll just paraphrase what he was saying. He was saying that after the match, we're playing so bad. It's sad that we come here to play and we just look so powerless when we're playing football. Every time there's a loose ball, we're always a step too late every time. We don't even get into duels. We don't even get yellow cards. We're not trying at all. And it's the players that we have here. There's no reason why we shouldn't be better. That's what I want to see from a player is, granted he didn't even have a great of a game, but he's taking ownership. He's saying we need to do better. We can do better. And he's one of the veterans. He's 29 or whatever. Also Ibesevic and Naldo, they're elder statesmen on the team. Why are the elder guys the ones stepping up and being pissed off? Where's the younger guys with the passion? Last year we had at least that they were the ones fighting. Now it's a couple of the older guys, the veterans, that are trying to light things up. I mean, where's everybody else?
Well, the Oud interview was tough to watch because you could see how affected he was by it. It wasn't anger. Yeah, it was more like heartbroken frustration.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah. I think he said something like, "I'm gonna go in the locker room and scream" or something like that. Or
he just looked like he was at a total loss for words. And one of the things that he said, which was funny, is that Manuel Baum is least to blame of anybody. It's with the players, and that's something that we've mentioned. At least I've mentioned a couple of times recently. It's I think we both supported David Wagner being shown the door because at some point, you have to change things if nothing's getting better and things are, you have to try something new. But if we see the same kind of thing from this team under the stewardship of Manuel Baum that we've seen under Wagner or under Tedesco at times. I think all signs kind of point to this being an issue with the players themselves and the psychology. I mean, if we get to, Christmas a month from now and we still haven't won a game and we haven't seen any tangible signs of an improvement, is that okay? Let's fire Manuel Baum and bring somebody else in at that point. The question that keeps coming up to me is is Schalke a puzzle that can be solved and we just don't have the right guy trying to solve the puzzle? Or at this point, is this puzzle just missing pieces? And it doesn't matter how many people, who you put in to look at it and analyze it and tinker with it and try to put the thing together. You just don't have what you need. You just don't have enough to complete the picture.
I think there's talent enough to win on this team. I just think the missing piece is mental or something. I don't know what it is. It's probably something stupid and small that's gonna one day it's gonna click and oh, this is how we play. We should have been listening the whole time. I'm trying to find this real quick. We were messaged over the weekend by our friend in a chat group we have during match days, Edwin Goodwin, and he was asking us, what are your thoughts on Baum? Should they let him go? Should they keep him? And we're like, who are you going to bring on? I mean, we would love to say that's the elixir right there, right? You just get a new manager and he'll figure it out, but there's no guarantee. We just had Baum come in and nothing's really changed.
Yeah, and for me, it's way too premature for that conversation.
Yeah.
Is just because Wagner had the first couple games of the season and all of preseason. So, I think, but I do think that we've gotten past now the stage of Manuel Baum has been given several games and a couple international breaks to kind of create a foundation and get things going.
Yeah.
And so, this Wolfsburg game is part of a series of games where I'm expecting to see growth from the team. And I think this was in a lot of ways a step back from the Mainz game. And that's unfortunate. So, maybe we get Ozan Kabak back in the lineup. Maybe that helps things. I don't know. I don't know what the answers are, but it does increasingly seem like this is something that the players are going to have to work out on their own somehow.
Yeah.
And that's not promising because it keeps happening over and over again season, by season. It's not a new phenomenon.
Yeah. I think someone who's in our chat right now, Dirk, he had a nice comment on Facebook, and I'll read it here real quick. He says, not sure what to ask or say anymore. Dead last in the league, not a glimmer of hope in that the situation is going to improve. The first half was at best Kreisliga Niveau. It was a really poor game, really low-level play. And that's where we lost the game. Way too much room was given to Wolfsburg with zero pressure on the ball. He didn't admit it in the press conference, but I blame Baum for that. Harit wasn't even on the pitch, and why the hell? I deleted the rest of the comment. I didn't get to read it all, but he made some great points. I mean, it's just like we've been scratching our heads on the podcast. Like, where do we go from here? We think where we could go, but just, I mean, I think summed it up best is that the players need to do something about it. Baum is doing the best he can, and there are some things that he can improve on, but the players on the pitch have to play. There's no way that you tell me 2 years ago almost the exact same group of players performed fairly decently and finished, mid-table or whatever. And then this year we're the worst goal differential in the league. You take out that Bayern score, we're still second to last by 1 goal. I mean, we're just not playing well at all, and somebody has to step up. And yeah. I nearly tweeted this out, and I didn't. I was going to say, like, just freaking play the Knappenschmiede. Maybe they're going to want to play with more passion than when the guys are playing out there now. So, I don't know, man.
Malik Chow was the best center back of the 3 in this game.
Sad but true.
The guy with the least experience by quite some margin.
He shows the most discipline as well because he's not getting stupid yellow cards and red cards as well.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. Like, nobody's even, usually when a team is playing poorly and they're pissed off, someone's going to go out there and start getting yellow cards just, to be like, wake people up. No one's doing that. To Ut's point, no one is doing that. We're just playing very passive, let the teams roll us over. Occasionally we'll get a shot opportunity like we did with Paciencia or Rahman or whomever, but there's not enough fight from this team. They got to do more on the pitch. So it's infuriating. I don't know. Anything you want to get to talk about before we get to the listener questions?
No, we can go to the questions.
All right, because maybe some things spring up off of that. First, Lane Plummer. He asks, when Schalke get relegated, is there a scenario that they won't go bankrupt and be forced into the Regionalliga? That's a tricky question because, you would think that maybe the ownership or something would leave or something. And I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Lane says uses the word when in this
he's fully confident,
which he is every season and has been
this
wrong.
Is true.
That's
true.
So far. True. Listen, let's just take this moment to address this then. So after Mainz put in a decent performance this weekend.
They won, yeah.
Schalke's bottom of the table.
Yeah.
Schalke has the fewest goals scored. Schalke has the most goals conceded.
Yep.
So in those very basic metrics, Schalke is the worst team in the season. I mean, in the league with the worst goal difference. It's not looking good. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible that we could get relegated.
Yep.
But we are 1 point from safety, and it is November. So the idea that I'm seeing as much as I am after this Wolfsburg game, people like talking about like, how we're going to restructure when we're in Bundesliga 2, we're definitely going down, all this kind of stuff. It's wrong. It's silly. And it's just not helpful at this point. I mean, I'm not going to try to claim and say that like all the Schalke players are super active on social media and they're reading what people say and it's affecting their psychology. I mean, I have no idea, if any of these people are active on, read anything.
Get up to us. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, no one watches this podcast. That's for damn sure. And nor should they, by the way. But the point I'm trying to make is like, how can we affect things as fans? Minimally, like very minimally. But the one thing that we can do is we can try to remain as supportive as possible. And be constructive with the kind of things we're doing, and everyone immediately going into nuclear, winter, like we're definitely getting relegated, defeatist, all this kind of stuff, pessimistic attitude. I don't think that's helpful to the psychology of the team, which it's increasingly looking like that is the biggest problem with the team. If anything, is the psychology of it. So I think as a fan base, we need to do everything in our power to, encourage and push the team on. Yeah, let them know that you're not happy, but the idea that we're saying it's already over and we're getting relegated when we're 1 point from safety in November is absurd. Let me ask this to the people that feel this way is, how were you feeling about this team like a year ago today? Or winter pausa, winter pausa last season.
Champions League.
You were feeling pretty good.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Look how quickly things changed in the second half of the season, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you feeling now? Things can change very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, are you seeing indications and things that would get you encouraged to expect that change? Absolutely not. Like I'm not trying to be delusional and say and claim that there are things that are there to see that aren't there to see. Yeah. But the idea that this is over, it's absolutely not. And I think we need to move on from that. as soon as possible and actually try to be a little bit more constructive.
It is 2020, and there's a very good chance that once the January 2021 hits, we turn back to that team that we saw 12 months ago, and then all of a sudden we go on a winning streak. We're like, oh my God.
When's the last time we won a game? Gladbach. Who are we playing next week? Gladbach. I mean, that's all. I mean, maybe that's the elixir. This is the first time we played them.
2020.
They're
the
ones
know.
who started the streak. Maybe they can end it. Who knows? All I'm saying is we're not there yet.
Yeah, so that's also back to my other point is that this same group of players were fighting for a Champions League spot 12 months ago, and all of a sudden now they can't even string two passes together. It's something's there. These players aren't bad. Are they Bundesliga title contenders? No, but they're not at the bottom of the table. They're probably maybe a middle table team. But there's no way you tell me all these group of players are that bad. I mean, they couldn't have dropped form that fast in 12 months. It's something psychological we've seen. And even Sebastian Rudy, taken for whatever you want to, a grain of salt, but he's even mentioned the psyche of this team is fragile when he left the team. He's like, the team is just don't have it mentally. And he's right. You can see it in the play. Like you're talking about during the game, people are dropping their heads and it's still the first half. You're like, come on, really? It's not, where's the fight? The coal miner mentality, never give up. They don't have that at the moment. They need to figure that out quick. But yeah, it's infuriating, but I will ask you this. You made some great points, and I agree with you 100%. But based on the play right now, we look like a relegation team at times, more times than not.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm not claiming that we don't.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to do. Right. I'm simply saying we are not at a point in the season where that conversation is necessary at all.
Yep.
In the sense that I mean, relegation isn't about like. What form have we been in so far? Yeah, necessarily, it's a mathematical equation at the end of the season, and it's far too early for the data to be that relevant when the gaps are this small.
Well, it seems like relegation is the theme of the show because our next question comes from Don De Brito. It says, 1, will Schalke win any games in its fight to Bundesliga? 2, will the free Kutucu finally happen when we get relegated? And 3, is it possible to get an update on youth prospect Mikael Maiden on the Schalke U19s? No, but we want to look up the Norwegian player. We will get to on a later episode because we do want to deep dive into the Knabenschmiede to the youth academy. But to the first couple questions, if let's play hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying is like it's already assuming that we're going to go down, and then it's asking the question seriously. Will we even win any games there?
Yeah. If
we were to go down, or are we gonna go on a winless streak? And I mean, this is not an important conversation. Yeah. No offense to anybody that's submitting questions. I just mean this is not like.
Yeah, I know.
And I get that everyone wants to be self-deprecating as a coping mechanism and just be like, look how bad we are. Like I get it, but I mean, come on.
So number 2, I almost wanted him to clarify because he says, will free Kutucu finally happen? I was like, well, in what sense? Will he be with the club?
Yeah,
I don't think so. So he'll be free technically because we saw those rumors earlier on in the preseason where they were like, oh, Kutucu might be going to Sassuolo or whomever.
Yeah, Kutucu isn't the issue right now.
Yeah.
The lack of Ahmed Kutucu in the lineup is not the problem. There's been things in the past that I've been upset about in terms of I'm seeing certain things from our play from our strikers or whatever that I think Kutucu makes up for some of those deficiencies that would help the team in a significant way. I still want to see more of Kutucu. This was only his second appearance this season, but I don't think the issue is that Pasianci and Uth are just not giving you something that Kutucu can give you right now. I think it's just the lack of any sort of consistent possession in the final third is half the problem. And once again, as we said earlier, Pasianci cannot be asked to be a consistent and reliable goal scorer if he's picking up the ball on the wings by the end line, a la Guido Bergstaller the past couple seasons. That's not where you want your players to be, and it's not always his fault that he's there either.
I heard he's got 15 goals this season so far. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what? If that was the case, that would make me happy, honestly. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. It would tell you where the problem is with us, not him.
I'm channeling a little Bergstaller energy with the winter beanie.
I should get my ugly Bergstaller sweater that I have. Which I have to bust out soon. I'm glad Dirk made that comment in the comments in the chat group because one of our questions kind of relates to that. So Paul Forster on Facebook, he asked, when is the last time Schalke were at the bottom of the table this far into the season? And I knew the answer, but Dirk says 93-94, Schalke were dead last after match day 8. They finished 14th that season, so there's always hope. That is true, and there was many seasons where we've been pretty close to being this bad. Back in 2016, 2017, we were 14th at this stage. Where else? Let me look. We had some bad years, a couple years. Not often, though. Most of the time we're in the top 10. In 98, 99, we were 13th at this point. But those are worse years. So there's always hope. There is always hope, but
and that's the theme. If there's a theme of this particular podcast, it's that yes, there is cause for concern. No, there is not cause for defeatism at this point.
Yeah.
And that would just be my general message. I mean, because you and I have been concerned since the summer break. We were back when we were talking about, are we going to win any of our first 5 games? So we've been concerned.
I think we're bad since I think we're this way since end of January last year when we after those games, what's going on here?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we see the same things other people are seeing. It's just let's try to do whatever small thing we can to help the team and encourage them on rather than resign them to their fate.
Yeah,
such as it may be.
One of the comments was, I don't remember from who it was, but they were saying, is there any way to still have optimism? It might have been Schalke UK. Is there any reason we should still be optimistic? I was like, yeah, you know what? 2020 is almost over. This hell of a year is almost over. So maybe when the clock changes, the calendar changes, maybe the team will freaking finally wake up out of this twilight zone. I don't know. The last comment that I had was not last question, but last comment. Eric the German says, Schalke for drinks. It's the only way to get through the current times, and that's how we're getting through. That's why
Schalke 4 and their fans use substances responsibly.
That's right, absolutely. And then the last question I got, at least from that I saw, it says at German Dad in LA says which players can lead us through the relegation battle. So we are in a relegation battle at the moment. What players we need to step up? Or are capable of stepping up. I mean, it seems like Mark Uth is maybe into this. He's ready. He's trying to call out. He's crying out for help. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Ibesevic somehow obviously has some fight in him, maybe with other players. I don't know, but
yeah, I think Paciencia's public communications have been pretty positive and have.
Frederick Renault has been brilliant this season. There's no reason to blame him at all. I think he's been our best player by far.
Yeah, he's got a very, very good save percentage. I think it's one of the top 3 save percentages in the league. I don't know if it still is after the Wolfsburg game, but it was. Yeah, going into it. Dirk mentioned DeSanto in the chat. That's an immediate excommunication. No, I'm just kidding.
He said DeSanto got a drink to it, right? Cheers. Yeah. It's I don't know, man. We just need the guys need to step up and play because Mascherano has to be a good player. I mean, both help defensively and offensively. We need our freaking center backs to everyone defensively, not just center backs. Everyone, when we're playing defensively, when we have that many men back, you really should be clogging up the defense, keeping your marking there. Your zonal marking has got to be right. And we're not marking anybody at the moment. We're letting guys just coast on by, and we see plays like the Schalke goal between him and Weghorst just playing tic-tac-toe with each other all the way down the pitch. You can't happen. Take people out. Even Stasic, who was good for yellow cards, hasn't been getting yellow lately because he's just been too passive. And
it makes you miss Caligiuri because at least you'd think that we might be able to steal a couple goals on set pieces or something.
Yeah, at least against Dortmund, right?
Yeah.
And I think everyone's in agreement that not having the fans there, at least at home games, is really hurting the team because they can really they help push our team to that next level to get a little bit better, especially when they're playing piss poor, and would call them out at the end of the games, when they played poor. So anyway. I don't know. Yeah, it's been a crazy game. We got Gladbach next. There are no slouches either. But if anything, this last year has told us anything. It's very unpredictable. At this point last year, Gladbach was one of the best teams in the league, and we found a way to have a beautiful match against them, win 2-0. Baum just needs to play that match on replay against them for the guys before that match. Like kind of like Rudy. Play Rudy too. How about that? Just do anything you can. I don't know. I mean, what you got, Jack?
I think that's what I'm saying is that I'm optimistic. I'm not optimistic, but I'm just saying, if we want to be funny about it for 2 seconds, I'm not making any sense right now. It would be great for the jokes if Gladbach was the turning point for us.
It would be.
Like I said, that was the last time we won a Bundesliga match, and that's our opponent next week. Hopefully we figure out. But yeah, the main thing is these next we've gotten through the initial phase of Baum, in my opinion. And so now the question is, are we going to start seeing improvement? Wolfsburg game, we haven't. And it's beginning to look, like I said, that it's maybe not something that the manager can affect all that much. David Wagner was clearly struggling with it. Baum was struggling with it. Tedesco was struggling with it previously. It's and there's a lot of the same guys that have been, throughout these teams. So I don't know what the issue is, but That's the thing. There's the 1 point from safety, long way to go this season. Just got to string a couple of results together at some point. And I mean, I think as Schalke fans, if we are, as long as we don't get relegated, I think we're going to be okay with this season, because I think we're all in agreement that this probably is, one of our weaker squads in recent years.
Yeah.
We didn't have high expectations for this year, but I do think this squad is good enough to avoid the drop. I think it absolutely is.
Yeah. I agree.
And they just need to find a way to unlock that in themselves. I don't have the answers. That's why I'm talking on the internet instead of, actually in those jobs or something, but.
Should be playing Football Manager 2021 and see what you can do, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't got any answers either, and none of the fans are. We're gonna reap and cry and try to give our opinions, but it doesn't. At the end of the day, we're not the ones making the decisions, and we're not the ones on the pitch playing. And I think that's the big thing there. I think Baum has got the team in a position that they can do something, can change. It's up to the players now to just step up and change this game. And I'm tired of seeing the same song week in, week out, because it's not as fun. Believe me, we would rather be here talking about all the wins and beating Dortmund, beating left and right, whoever. But something's need to change, and it's certainly a mentality thing. We thought that maybe the international break would help with at least with the planning, but that didn't help. So let's see what we do against Gladbach. We got another DFB Pokal match not too long from now, I think. I can't remember exactly the date of that, but Gladbach's a game we got to focus on. I'm curious, do we see Bosdogan again? That's somebody who I've been missing to see.
Yeah.
Or maybe Vujilab or something like that, but let's see what happens here the next week. We'll be paying close attention to the news here to see what's going on here. Maybe we hear more about this Ibesevic and Naldo scuffle that we've been hearing so much about today. And yeah, and I'm go ahead.
It would be interesting to see. If people are critical of Omar Mascarell and there's a growing tide of people that think maybe there needs to be something change there, it'd be interesting to see if sort of the midfield shape that we've been employing recently, where it's a deep central midfielder and then two people slightly more advanced flanking him. If you invert that, and then maybe you play like Bosdogan and Bentaleb as your more deeper holding midfielders, and then Serdar as more of an advanced, more central mid, something like that. I don't know. But I think there's still things that we can tweak and experiment to get the right combination of people on the field and maximize our output.
Yeah. Dirk is saying we're having a New York Rangers kind of season. I was like, can we have that 93-94 season where they won the Stanley Cup? That'd be nice. I'd take that. Anyway, there's not much else to say. That we lost again 2-0 at home this time. It doesn't really matter where we play, but it hurts a lot when we're at home because we don't have those fans. So, yeah, let's see what we can do in Gladbach. It'll be a big game for us. All the games are big from here on out. Just be competitive. That's all we ask. Let's before we close this out, make sure you sign up for the Schalke US newsletter. Not only are you going to get info on the club, but you're going to get the latest on the local fan clubs across North America, and even hear about our podcast as well as in the latest episodes. So definitely sign up for that. All you do is give up your email, and you're going to get monthly newsletters. So definitely check that out, especially if you're in North America. So. Keep tuning in each week as we bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. We want to thank Schalke and all our followers for providing tidbits for our podcast tonight. Any topics you would like us to discuss or any videos you want us to make on YouTube, let us know at SchalkeMerica. Jack, any shout-outs you want to give out to tonight?
I think what we need NBC4 Nashville to conduct an investigative report into what's wrong with the psychology of Schalke. I'd be interested to hear their findings on the matter. But
interesting.
In the meantime, JM Mangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
Very good. Once again, I'm your host, Richard Kharman. You can find me anywhere at R_KHARMAN. Check out our YouTube page. We did release out the Manual Bomb Tactics video, so check that out. And until the next pod comes, my friends, stay ready, and we'll be with you soon. Tschüss.